originally.
How long ago did it run?
I don't know. After December 2nd.
I had 85 in here. I don't know how some of them.
That's where my stepmother had her surgery at Lawrence Children's Hospital.
Work is that.
In fact, he was a heart specialist.
Not too many here tonight.
One surgeon. Surgeon come from Africa. Well, this was back in the early 60s. He could be the surgeon, but he could tell the surgeon when
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
All right, test. Testing. There will be a test later, so pay attention.
Study. Test.
Yep.
What's that board?
We're already in study.
The bowl in it, you can make sled.
Nobody likes a snitch, Jerry.
Water spray. Hey, you.
All right.
I didn't either.
All right, we'll go and get started. It's about 6:30. Oh, sit down for a minute here. It's a little. Turn this down just a tad. Right here. That's what's on. Hello? Can you hear me now? Test. I'll leave it at that. Sooner or later, that furnace is going to kick back on. If it gets a little whiny, let me know. It bugs everybody. Thank you, everybody, coming in for November's Flatland Woodturner meeting.
Bucks were coming out of the woods into our yard.
Hope everybody got out and saw the pretty lights a few nights ago. I was out taking quite a few pictures of those myself. I don't have a whole lot of news here.
Not been ready. They didn't stop.
Yeah, it's bouncing a little too much. Oh, let me fix that. While I'm fixing that, Jim, do you want to go ahead and say what you got there?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I got a cartload of walnut over here, which came from a gentleman who lived up, well, he lived in Champaign most recently. He lived up by Hoopston in that area.
Test.
He
Test.
was a farmer and he was a farm manager. And he grabbed me at church one day and said, I've got some walnut, and I want you to sell it for me, and I want you to send all the proceeds to the Grace Lutheran Church food pantry. So that's what's over here. He passed away not too long ago, so I thought I'd better get busy since I hadn't really done anything about selling it before then. But it's you know, when I went with him to up here west of town along Springfield, he had a rental unit there, which he took me to and showed me where the wood was. Well, the only thing left in this rental unit was this wood. Everything else was gone. But I'll take, since it's for the food pantry, I'm going to, I'd give it away if it was mine, but I'm going to have to ask for $8 a board foot. Now, if that's too high, I'm willing to negotiate with you to whatever you think might be a fair price. All the pieces are of different kinds and different shapes. And that's what I had to say. John was looking at this cart in the back, and I hadn't really intended to bring it out today, but he said, yeah, why don't you bring that out? So I did, and here it is.
So if anybody's interested in some good walnut, it's got some pretty grain on those. I was telling him about, I don't know how many remember Wayne James, and when he was a member of the club, I went out to his farm and he had those 3 big barns out there with just nothing full of milled lumber.
He gave me some once.
Yeah, I filled my truck full up walnut that day. I don't know if he's still around or,
I don't either.
I haven't seen him in a long time, not since before COVID.
It's been quite a while. I haven't,
And he was late 80s then, wasn't he?
yeah, I haven't Googled to see if he's still around or not.
Yeah. I see we got a new face here tonight.
New old face.
New old face. Hadn't seen in a while. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Neil Solomon.
Welcome, Neil. Glad you can make it. There's Dan hiding back there. I don't have much in the way of other events. I was just kind of peeking at AAW's website, and the only thing they've got on there is the Woodturn Symposium right now for next year in June. Let's see what else I got notes. Cody's doing his demonstration tonight and talking about wood design and all things like that. And I think he went overachieved on his President's Challenge there. 3 and 1. It's cool though. I haven't heard much anything on Turning Saturday yet, so we'll see how that goes. Got anything new to bring up? Jerry?
I brought in a lot of woodworking and wood turning magazines and books. Help yourself. Wife don't want me to have them anymore.
So you want us to get in trouble?
You bet. Pass them around, use it up, leave it at the doctor's office, give people something to look at instead of the magazines they get.
That's what my dad used to do. That's how he got rid of a lot of his magazines. He'd take his name off and bundle them with him when he went to see the doctor. He'd just leave them there on the table.
I thought, well, I could make a bunch of Flatland labels. Be somebody interested in the wood turning ones.
All right. Anybody have anything else?
Scott's not here, is he?
No, he's couldn't make it tonight. He messaged me, said he wasn't going to be here. He might pop in online, so I don't know if he's.
Some of those books, wood turning books I brought in, we may not have in the library, but I was gonna have him check his list, but.
Scott's sick, and I think Corey's sick too.
Yeah, I don't see Corey. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that time of year, especially with this yo-yo weather. 4 inches of snow on Monday, and then 70 degrees by Friday.
Gotta love it. Illinois weather.
Oh yeah.
Right, wait 2 minutes.
Plus, it's the worst time ever to find out your 4-wheel drive has gone out too.
Really?
Yeah, I tried to engage mine that Monday morning to go to work and turned it on. It just gave me a little wrench sign. But I found, got it going again. We found a video of guys like, just go here and tap on this thing. Went in there, tapped on it with a hammer a few times, and knocked the corrosion loose on the little electrical motor under there. Yeah, don't use it enough, or that little motor just corroded up. Probably need to get it swapped out if I go for another year on that truck. About 200,000 miles, what do you expect? Well, if anybody doesn't have anything new, and I don't have anything old to go over, give me 1 moment, Crowbar, and we can do the treasury report. All right. All right, thank you, Crowbar. And I guess we'll go to show and tell. What?
If I'm all alone up here, I'm first.
Yeah.
This is, since we're doing crosstalk tonight, this is a piece of walnut that I cut so I'd have the feathered figure in the middle. Of course, it has to be very shallow to show the figure in it. And this is another one that almost qualifies as a crotch piece. If you can picture it, it's a big stump that has 2 trees coming out of it. So I put it on and cut out the outside first and then slowly did the rest of it, but things I did many years ago.
Dwight, when you turn that, didn't he want to fly apart on you?
No, when I turned it, let's go back. I put it between centers, but to do that, I had to put a block of wood in here because this was nothing in the middle. So I put it between centers, turned the outside first, shaped that, cut this flat so I could put a screw faceplate on it to hold it. So now it's held, and I just did it a little bit at a time. I'd come out and I'd do a half inch, I'd come out and do another half inch, so it didn't get all floppy until it was really down to almost no wood. And I didn't turn it real fast either. I was kind of nervous turning it, sticking the
Wide.
thing in this, if you screwed up, you'd tear it apart in a heartbeat. So it was a slow process to turn that.
Good job.
Yes, you, Muhammad. All right, the bread here, I helped do a bread run. We were swamped with bread. Take it, or it gets thrown away. And I did something different on wig racks. I was just in South Carolina, and I took a couple with me. And I went to local VFW, got a hold of the Women's Auxiliary. Man, did I get hugs for giving them to give away. They love that. So just an idea, if somebody wants to do it, your VFWA, get with the Women's Auxiliary there, and they'd be happy to help you. Anyway, I don't know what it is, but it's there. I know we got hackberry here, I think that's oak. Then that's you, root ball.
Is that Frankenstein?
Yeah, pretty well. Yeah,
Golf.
that's what my wife said, what is that?
Golf.
The
And
deadly
she said, don't
weapon.
make them so big.
The deadly weapon.
Yeah,
It's a part of an Amish engine, it's the piston
Yeah.
ring.
then there's a couple of tops here, if you won't play with them.
Doug Bowling, I brought in several pieces of apple. An apple bowl from wood at Clark Lindsay on the trees we've taken down there. This is one that I made several years ago, slightly spalted apple. Interesting was, I couldn't find it to bring until tonight. So I made this one. A little smaller. Actually, it's easier to play around with. So I made that yesterday. And then my wife wanted to have a piece of leather string for a name tag that she's going to wear. And when I went to the box where I knew the leather was, that's where this one was. So I said, I'll bring them both in. So that's all of it now. That's also apple. And I thought that might be an interesting thing to do, the topsy-turvy or
Tipsy top.
the tippy tops, they call them different things. But that might be a challenge sometime to go ahead and make the tippy tops. And it will turn out, but the trouble is, there's so much stuff here, it'll go in, end up on the floor. But I can't spin it enough there.
Yeah, I almost
On a
had it.
slick surface, it'll really work, it'll get right up. That'd be a nice project sometime.
The old sawmill. This is hard maple. It's a tree the city cut down. And this is apple. Tree was dead
got several spears here that are turned. This is one I just put everything in a cup and poured some epoxy in there, or some rosin to fill it up. Then I got a spalted maple one, cedar one, some in there I don't know what they are. Another spalted maple, this is a hackberry, and then this one is hollow. So got all that, and then got the Thunderbird bow. I would imagine I brought it before, but I'm not positive about that. So, and I don't know what kind of wood this is. I've got 3 different balls in there, different sizes of whatever that is. If anybody can tell me, I don't know. That's what I got.
Bob Griffin, Decatur. I think I may have screwed up. I tried to make a ball, but it turned out like an egg. An egg ball, maybe. I don't know. This is as close as I got to the sphere because I'm working on a couple other things at home, so thought I'd bring this in again. This comes close, but not quite. It is hollow, by the way, but it's thick-walled. Thank you.
So, these were perfectly round in the shop today, so they must have just dried all the way over here. My first attempt at trying spheres, freehand with a skew, so I think it's not a bad first attempt, but they're a little egg-shaped.
Cool.
All right, Cody Jones, Urbana. I'll start with spears. These I've brought in the past because I did them last year, 2 years ago. There's actually 3 of them. They're all hollow spears out of the U roots, and this will kind of go along with what I'll be doing on the demonstration later. I can't get them out very easily. I made them so that all of them fit inside. They do come out, but like the fun thing is that they look like they're cord, but they are not cord. But those are fun and cool. Another little U vessel that I made this month, and so you got the purple grain in there, which I always like, and a little bit of a, include or a little natural edge spot in there. And then this is a little bud vase, and this is also the same wood as those. This is from a U root, main only thing I can turn. But this color is the same purple as you see in there, but it's just like as extreme as it gets. So there's actually still a nail all the way through this. It's a little shiny spot there. It goes through out the other side. And there's a little small piece of metal up there as well. And so this is all purple, but it's like so purple that it's almost black in spots. So that's all natural color, just a really cool, this is all of the piece of wood that I had. It was, yay big. And so made something out of it, and pretty neat.
It might be from metal in there?
Yeah, so a lot of times you get the purple around where, like in this one, there's still a little spot of dirt in there, where there's a bark inclusion around dirt, and that's often where you end up seeing the purple. And so it's both the fact that there's an inclusion and likely a spot for, infection, bacteria, stuff to get in, as well as the iron in the metal reacting as well. So I don't know exactly, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is it's kind of a combination of both of those. But yep, so that's what I got. And then, afterwards I'll be talking about crotches and kind of design, so it'll kind of go along with some of the stuff that I was bringing. So that's what I got.
Roger Cookson, Decatur, Illinois. I was supposed to bring these in last month and I didn't. I forgot a couple wig stands that I made. This one actually came from crowbar except for the shaft. said in his demonstration, and she was given these two things. So I made a weak stand out of them. And then last month, I had that bourbon barrel that you could open it up and it actually had a jar in it and you could have bourbon in it. Well, this month I brought in the shot glasses I made to go with the bourbon barrel.
John Kreitler from Decatur. I'm gonna go around the backside here where I can get to these better. I brought in some spheres. These were done, I didn't do them recently, these were done a couple of years ago. But I drug them back out and brought them in for the demo. There's a little bitty one down the bottom there. And the bowl has, was a limb that had limbs going out in 3 directions. So it was a crotch that had 3 directions. That's white oak. I have no idea what the finish is on it, but anyway, there's some spheres. Last month, I brought in one of the tremulas, and we talked about my progression at that point, going from about 9 inches up to one that was 40 inches tall, and the stem was about 1/4 of an inch in diameter, and that was my skill level at that point. And Roger got me to commit to a 6 foot long 1/8 inch tremulous. So we've sort of accomplished that. And that's this one here. So this is a 6 foot tube. So altogether it's about 6 foot. It's walnut for the stem, and it's close to an 1/8 inch. There might be a spot or two where it's under, but for the most part it's not quite an 1/8 of an inch down to that. Took me 2.5 to 3 weeks to do. Probably filled a trash can full of broken stems and pieces of walnut. But I finally got enough to put it together. So this one is done, and it's a pretty nice piece. This one here, now this is a little different. This one here is an 1/8 of an inch. And as the story goes, John the woodturner did this one. John the engineer did this one. In my occupation, I was an engineer by job craft. So the way the engineer did it, he mixed himself a drink and sat down in front of the computer. And a little while later, from Amazon, he bought a package of 100 of these little dowel rods already turned to 1/8 inch long, 1/8 inch diameter, and 12 inches long. And I forgot to bring the pack of them with me today. But then I went down in about 2 or 2.5 hours. I turned these little couplings and glued them all together. Took me about 2.5, 3 hours to do this, and I didn't break the stem one time. But I believe that was cheating. Not true. All right. In the process of doing all that, I thought I had learned some things. That a lot of it depended upon which wood you used. You have to find a wood that's very straight grained. You have to find a wood that's got some strength. And you have to find a wood that's got some flexibility. The problem with the walnut was that it's pretty rigid. It doesn't have a lot of flexible strength, and it's hard to find something that over any length at all is really straight grained. Even if it has just the tiniest little bit of side grain, all of a sudden you're working and bing, there it goes. You know, you just can't control it. You don't know what you're going to get. So I thought that reading, looking on the internet, working with it, they recommend beech, ash, or hard maple. So I found a place that said that they sold beech dowel rods. So I bought some beech dowel rods, half-inch dowel rods. I spent about 3 hours turning one night, never got a piece longer than about 3 inches, and after the 5th break, I quit. But then I did this one. And this is a piece of mahogany that Roger gave me. Relatively short piece to start with. It was just a little over 2 foot long. And that's about what this is. This is in the neighborhood of 2 foot long. But this one is less than 1/8 of an inch. The few places I measured it, it was down around 3/32, around 100 thousandths, just under 100 thousandths thick. And I turned this length without breaking it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Roger gave me another piece, so hopefully I'll be able to finish one out. And these I set up where they're hanging, where they're suspended, and I made a wall bracket, so so I have them hanging up in a spot where they don't take up very much room. Look pretty good. So that's my my next step in the saga of the Tremblers.
Consider bamboo.
Bamboo. You know, I might try that. See if I can buy some. That's a good suggestion. I like that.
Well, what, one of my daughter, mine was Bill's, Christmas ornament. And I haven't put a finish on this one yet. I think I used to put on poly. I haven't made them several years. I turned this the other day and I thought, I'm gonna think about what I want to put on first. I think I might go with black on it. I'm not sure. I think black will last a little bit on Christmas. It's gonna be more black on it.
So I'm still new here, and so I thought I'd bring something to show and tell. This is what I made in the class I took down in Tennessee. So it's wrought full of mistakes and stuff, but it's, you know, it's the first thing I'd ever made, and so I don't know, I wouldn't guarantee that you could sit on it for very long without it falling apart, but it was a good experience for me. I had a good time, and that's what got me stuck on, got me enthused to do all this wood turning stuff. Thank you.
Very nice.
Got some problems. And that's the first thing. I'm working on
My sphere, cash, kind of not too round. Elm ball, or up and another elm bowl, elm barrel. Very low on it.
Bigger, so this sphere was a little bigger when I started, so. And wick stand, I got this from Sam a couple months ago. And I got some spalted for the top and the bottom. It was so spalted and punky. I had about 2 ounces of CA to get it back together so I could use it. That's number 615.
Wow. Is that a wig stand for a hippie chick?
They were asked, yes. They're asking for them in SIU down in Springfield, the cancer center down there. They specifically asked for lumber for paper bills.
So what's that, like
Um,
2 foot, 2 foot?
22 inches, I think,
22?
yeah.
Show the purple one,
Where's the purple?
center of the table.
Oh, then Sam's wife asked for a purple wick stand, so I made her one, so
She's gonna love it.
she's gonna be the love of my life now.
All right, we got anybody else? Everybody? You?
You.
You? 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 All right, white tickets are the President's Challenge tickets tonight. We'll draw those. As I'm, let everyone know, we got all the raffle stuff over here. Sam brought in some nice mugs tonight with Flatland Woodturners and a lady on the other side. And gray one here. I've also got a tool over here. Little kind of what do you call that little
Termite.
Termite? Is this called a termite tool? I thought someone was just making that up.
That's it?
I've never heard that name, to be honest. I saw in there, I was thinking of scorping tools like these for wood carving. Let's start over here with the white tickets. On this side of the table here. First white ticket number is 902. Paul? Doug? Sorry. Over here. Yeah, these guys right here. Yep. These guys right here. And these are going to be the red ticket side. All right, 906. 906. John? Get one of those little finger things, some dental picks, and a couple pieces of wood there. Okay? $904. Steve? Sander or dental picks? And last one, 903. Dental picks?
Show me how they work.
Yeah, I found out how they worked a few days ago. Had a new crown put in. Of course, it was more of a Dremel than a dental pick. All right, red tickets. Red ticket, first one up is 898.
Huh?
893.
No, I'm 897. Bob got to put his glasses on.
I do have that. What do you got up there?
Took a log, I think it was maple. Got a little ambrosia to it. Couple of blanks here. Finger sander, rasp kit. $10 card for scratch supply and hearing protection.
I'll take that card.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. 896. Neil?
You can go up there.
Yeah, you can walk up here. They're just stuck in the middle today. They're little mini rasps. Does not look at them. All right. 902. Paul. good, hearing protection. 901. What?
So say, you look at that green piece up there, I thought it was part of that U.
No.
That green
All right.
piece lines up on that one side.
905. Filler. A couple chunks of wood and a little finger sander, mouth sander. All right. And last one, the red ticket, 900. Roger. Perfect size for train whistles. All right, we'll go ahead.
Do I need to leave them with you?
I don't know if I could 3D print those out of wood, although there is wood filament. I haven't tried that stuff yet, because I hear it tears them up pretty good. We'll go ahead and take a little break for a little bit. Everybody get your raffle tickets and come back in about 20 minutes. So.
I knew you couldn't resist.
And don't forget, Jerry's got a lot of magazines over there to look at. So Jerry's got a lot of magazines and stuff to look at, to take home with you, add to your collection. There's bread.
That's fine.
He told me it was all wrong.
That's okay, that's okay.
I was gonna get a tape.
Well, actually, that would be fine.
I think we got one in the chest here.
Oh, yeah. In fact, no, I'm sure your stuff wasn't.
I was gonna waste money.
You sure?
Okay, stuff ready. This is Jerry.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm just gonna basically making a donation to the food bank.
He could probably cut it for you too.
Yeah.
Well, we have a handsaw over there in the raffle.
Darker, but the green looks like some big green. Like some what? No, it's not decorative. It's dark, but I know it's gonna get dark in spots too. I don't know what it is. I don't even remember where I got it.
No, sir, no, sir.
Have a jacket.
So look big one. There's a little better,
And
How much you buy it, Jerry?
How
much you buy it?
Oh,
Yeah. I don't know what it
know a lot of them.
Yeah, I was hearing of his and we had a house, we've been in the same house 54 years, so in November we moved out to a different house. So we moved out to a 5-bedroom, 2-story, and 2 garages.
Can't even imagine, I've been in our house for 40-some odd years.
We had moved 9 big items, we moved first.
In Orlando.
In 6 weeks, my wife had breast cancer 4 years ago. 6 weeks ago, she went in and came back in her house. It's got something. Deal with that. But she's on the medication, it's like her, maintainable.
Yeah. I wish her luck, it's tough to go through herself.
And my sister-in-law, her sister's got brain cancer. That's 11 feet 2 inches. They put it in something in the center.
It's 11 foot 2 inches. So 11 foot.
So if it's 12 foot long and 30, so it's 4 more feet. All right? $30?
Redwood, 1.5.
Winged it.
I'd say winged, 2 foot 2.
Okay, yeah, and, can somebody watch that too?
I don't know.
That's what I'm,
Okay, we'll go with that. We'll go with that then.
don't take my word for it.
If we can manage that too.
Oh,
All right.
You wanted it exactly into?
Anywhere close, doesn't have to be anywhere close.
I wrote this for you, just in case. Pieces? 3? Or do you need it?
I don't really need it, I got so much wood right now that I can't.
Anybody needs
I'll cut some right now that I've got.
edging?
Somebody give me some of that.
or a
I
table or
really
something
don't
like
think I
that?
want any right now, yeah, I
It's been
appreciate
floating
it.
around in our box for a while.
I've got,
Someone
well, I
donated.
brought those 2 pieces.
Thank you, sir.
And I brought the 2 pieces in, it was up here, but so I got,
Resealable
I got
package.
maple, I gotta cut up, and I got a bunch of those pieces to get processed, and then I got a few other pieces that I gotta get cut up. Got some.
Been in the chest for so long, a lot of fun.
I'm about to get one of those, and it's full of ants in the middle, so I got the outside, and I gotta shut I just can't keep up. And then I gotta turn most of it, I'd like to get it turned into something before it cracks and splits on the end. Someday maybe, but not today. But I appreciate y'all.
You got the corn.
Two trees. Take fruit.
Yeah. I love it, most is pretty wood.
But when you have to burn it, get those little nuts off or
It's ruining right now because I can't get to it. I'm afraid that's what happened to that.
hold it between centers.
Yeah, I get some honey.
Are the right size,
2 years ago.
and you're not gonna get it.
Thing is, I got one that's very similar for carving hand tool, and it's round like that.
Yeah, I like it.
Kind of like that.
I like to, I like to.
It turns pretty smooth.
That cable gonna be away, Cody?
No, it'd be all right.
So, because it has the different gaps and stuff, you're able to manipulate it and get them inside.
Yeah, yep. And I did that one first, and then I had the idea after I did that, I had a bigger one, I'm like, I'll do a bigger sphere, and then I'm like, that would be cool if I could get it to so that that one would fit in. And you also get scared as you get bigger, you have less holding on to the wood. I'm like, I don't want to go too thin. And so I kept like stopping the lathe, so I'm holding on to it from here, and still have the tenon on there. And so I just like kept taking off a little bit more until I could get it through this opening. And it takes like 3 or 4 minutes for me to remember how to,
there's something between the two.
it's a puzzle. And so I got it once on the lathe, and I'm like, okay, then that is the thickness that will keep it. And so I'll try and do as close to that as I can. At the very bottom, I'm a little thicker, but it was more of just like, this is the safe level that I feel comfortable with, that it can still go in. Because if you make it too much wider, then it kind of loses the effect of, and so that, after I had done those two, I'm like, I might as well go for a third. And so this is kind of the same way where it doesn't fit unless you
And sand that.
Yeah. Well, that is something that I want to do. I think it would be cool. I don't know if you can do it with a solid block and core a sphere out of a solid block. But with this one, you definitely could. Because, like the sphere inside of a cube, where you can go in from each base of the cube and do a little bit, you can do that here if you, let's say you've got a donut chuck, or donut chuck around it. You can go in from this and get that curved part. You can also turn it and go in this hole and get that curved part. You can go in there, and eventually all of those would end up meeting. That I think that you could connect it with this, just because it does have these different spots where you could hollow it. Future projects.
Very good.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it.
There's always something.
I think it was a Delta.
I paid $500 for it.
All right, last call for tickets. Last call for tickets. Get your tickets. Ready or not. I know it's not bugging you, Cody, but it's bugging me, and I'm worried it's going to knock off.
Okay. That's all right.
That's the only one you want to get in.
I appreciate that. I don't think I really
There we go, that'll work. Mary, did you get the email for today's meeting?
I did, but I thought the meeting started at 7.
Okay, I just want to make sure you got it.
It didn't have a time on it, so I looked at my calendar, and my calendar said 7, so that's why I didn't know.
I'll put it on there.
Thank you.
If you did, I didn't notice it.
I'll make sure they're on there. But it's always, we start at 6:30.
Okay, well,
If
now,
you're late, we're not gonna
I know
yell
now.
at you or nothing. We won't kick you out if you're late.
I didn't think you would, so,
The only one they'll kick out is the guy who sets up everything.
is what?
Is the guy who sets up everything.
Okay.
Do you want everything set up?
That's it.
Yeah.
Jerry, I'm gonna take these, nobody else seems to want them.
All right.
Some was just got this one.
Everybody got their tickets? All right.
Bring it with you sometime. It's easier.
first ticket gets to pick one of these right here on the table.
I don't know about that.
I'm gonna go buy some more tickets.
Save me.
The globes are all just separate, so yeah, if you want all three, you have to like start trading with everybody. All right, first one up. Premature woohooing over there. 585. Oh, I was one off. 585. All right, there goes the first one. Both those go together. All right. Next one. 584.
Gary?
Gary, you got 584?
Yeah, somebody else take it.
Every gift? All right. Might have to throw these on the floor and old Jerry whenever I start getting it all stuck together.
Been here, mixed it up and grew good.
604.
Wow.
Yeah, woohoo time, Gary.
They buy.
There goes the termite. All right. Almost dumped them on the floor. 603.
Steve?
Steve?
Steve. Somebody else can do it.
All right. There you go. I'm gonna mix it. 586.
Free gift.
Gary?
Wow,
you get it?
Gary.
Yeah, the street food. How many did you buy, Gary?
3.
3, okay.
Get them all.
592. 592.
Cherry on the other side.
Yeah, it's got cherry on one end. 594. Thank you. Don't be sure. Hey, John?
Yeah, that was a nice one.
I know, that's what I was You didn't woo-hoo it, Jerry. 591. Alright. 597.
Bingo. Want to trade, John?
If you want this one, I'll trade it.
John, you got one of those others.
It's too big for me.
John, you got one of those others.
I hate to tell you this, but I lost it.
Oh, well, they might show
I
up.
don't know what I did with it.
Gambling?
Huh?
Gambling?
No. I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
You can hold tonight and tomorrow.
599. 599. Roger?
Hockey puck. They're stands
Fish pucks.
for woodworking. You lay them out, put your board on
They
there.
work good
stand,
too.
Hold them still.
Especially if you're doing rowdy. 580.
Oh, that one's made up. It is.
was a big chunk of log
Oh, I don't think that. Take baby steps for me, guys.
All right, next one up. 588. That's one of mine. Actually, I'll take the bench parts. I like this. All right, two more. 595. John?
I'll take the log.
All right, log is called for. All we got is a handsaw left. 598. Jerry, that you?
Yeah. That's all.
Yeah. We'll call it mulligan if you don't want it. Or re-gift it.
I'll re-gift it.
All right.
Making me bring it over pretty soon.
Jerry uses re-gift. I'll pull his next ticket out.
9-6.
590. All right, we got two re-gifts. This is the last one. Whoever number has it, takes it. 600. Roger? You see? I got a saw.
I do.
Did you
I
see
have
it?
another saw.
You see the saw?
All right, let me get these turned around here and we'll start this up. And you're on number 3.
Should just need 3 the whole time.
All right.
Okay, check. Can you guys hear me all right?
Let me get this.
Okay, well, so thanks for sticking around. Again, I'm Cody in Urbana right now, and today we're going to be talking about what to do with a crotch. So hopefully this will be a kind of a fun and informative demonstration. Again, not using the lathe, so you guys don't ever see how I actually turn, but we'll talk about it. So we'll open it up to the audience. Why do we like crotches? Any ideas?
Grain.
The grain, that's the big one, yep.
The feather pattern, yeah.
Feathering, yep, Anything else? What's that? No,
So there's a 12-year-old.
See, yeah, exactly. We left it open for that. So yeah, everyone likes crotches, especially woodturners. They're really pretty, associated with great figure, right? Yes?
What's a crotch?
So a crotch is when you've got a log that's splitting up into 2 branches. And so, yep, so that's what the crotch is. And a lot of times woodturners will find like guys cutting down trees and it's like, hey, I want you to save just those. I've got enough wood at home, save me the pretty parts, which is oftentimes the crotch there. And the reason why it's pretty, we mentioned it, the figure, the grain, oftentimes what that is chatoyance. That's the fancy word for what it is. We know that in wood, it's made up of fibers. That's what the grain is long fibers. And usually if you're just in a log, they're going straight. We're talking about the long pieces of wood, looking for really straight grained wood. That's what you find oftentimes in just a log. Well, when you've got a crotch, those grain lines, that grain fiber can kind of choose which direction to go into, whether it goes to the branch to the right or the left. And so when you have that, you get some of the, grain goes in different directions, and that's what shows that figuring, that chatoyance, is the light reflecting through those grain lines at different angles. And so all of these pictures that you see there, those, even though they look like waves, that wood's perfectly flat and smooth. It looks like waves because of the grain. One other place that you'll see this oftentimes is if you've got a branch of a tree that's coming straight out, that would be straight, but as the weight of gravity ends up bending that tree branch down, you'll find them at the bottom. A way that you can think of this is if my hand here is that straight grain going out, the skin is just straight. But as you end up as that ends up bending with gravity, all of the skin here is wiggled, right? Is bunched up. You'll see that same thing in an actual branch. Is the grain, the fibers have to kind of bunch up because they're already a certain length and then now they're, shorter. So that's a lot of detail for what it is and why you see it. And this is oftentimes why woodturners like crotch wood, because it's pretty. Okay, now how do they allow for creativity? So you can take a block of wood and you can make anything out of it. And a block of wood comes from a log, but you've taken the bark off, you've cut it into a rectangle shape, and that's what we've got there on the left. But if you just have the log itself, you've got bark and natural edge options on it. And so when you've got your crotch, you've got bark, you've got the natural edge on there. Those can be fun, allow for creativity. Heartwood and sapwood differences, if you think of walnut, the middle of it's dark brown, the outside of it is a light white color. So you've got some differences there. Sometimes some woods have differences in the pith, the very center as well. So if you're using the whole crotch, you've got maybe 3 different types of wood. You've got maybe, there's just like more options there. You've got different shape and orientation options, which is what we're mainly going to be talking about later. And then you've also got some opportunity for inclusions and opportunities for spalting. Like in the crotch that's pictured up there, you can see that there's a little bit of a crack at that spot. Sometimes when trees form like that, it's a weak spot, and so you'll sometimes get water that ends up getting in there. You get fungus infections, and that's what spalting is, which we like spalting. It looks cool and it makes cool patterns, but it's fungus getting into the wood. So sometimes crotches have a bit more of that, or in some unique spots and situations. So they allow for creativity. And so the big question is, what can you do with them? We had a lot of examples of bowls in here, which are great. There's some really pretty bowls that we had in here that, we showed. And so, yes, you can make a bowl with them. But you can also make any shape or that you can with a regular chunk of wood. You can make it and apply it to a crotch, and now you might have something a little different. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. One of the quotes that I heard at the symposium a few years ago when I went and attended, Jack Vessery said, if someone says about your piece that's a pretty piece of wood, you have failed as a maker. What he meant by that is that just because the wood is pretty, like it would be the same prettiness if you would have just cut it, sanded it, and put a finish on it. You as a maker haven't really done anything. If you would have painted your piece black, if it's no longer going to be like a decent piece and you look at it and say I don't like it, it's ugly, it's fat, whatever. His was trying to emphasize focus on the form. Yes, you can apply it to a pretty piece of wood, but make a good form, make a good piece regardless of what the piece of wood is. And so we'll be talking about form a little bit. This is not going to be about what is the best shape. There's a lot of better people out there to talk about than I am, but I just wanted to mention that this kind of goes into it. Even though crotches have really beautiful wooden figure, don't use it, don't let that be the only reason for why your piece of wood that you make out, or your form out of it is good. Make your form good, cool, interesting, and have the figure as well. So today we're going to be using Autodesk Fusion 360. Has anyone ever used that or heard of it? A few people have heard of it, used it. What it is, it's like an AutoCAD but in 3D, so it's a computer program for making shapes, designs, engineering kind of things. This one, it's free to hobbyists. We would all be in that category. It's, if you are a business, you'd pay for it, but it's free to hobbyists. There's a lot of things that you can do with it. I have barely scratched the surface. I'm going to be pretty basic on it. But it's pretty neat, pretty cool, and we'll show some of the functionality. There's other similar programs out there. So Onshape is one. I hear it advertised in some of the YouTube turning videos that I watch. People are sponsored by Onshape. Similar kind of thing. Also, I believe free for hobbyists as well. So if you see some functionality in what I talk about today and you're like, hey, this could be useful, try it out, they're pretty neat. And then before we go to that, I mentioned form. I'm going to be looking at generic shapes and we can play around with it. But if you want to know what good shapes are, this book here is actually in the club library. This is a really good resource. Jerry brought in some books that are really good resources. And then these are two of mine that I got for myself, which this one is also Richard Raffin, but more updated than the old one. This is another one that's just got a lot of examples of bowls. And so in one of the slides previously, I said you can apply any shape to crotch and make it. So I would say have a good idea of what good shapes are, what good bowls are, like what you want to make, and then you can make them onto whatever piece of wood. And so these are some really good resources to kind of help figure out what makes a shape good and that kind of thing. You can also look through Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, and see things that you like, and remember what it is about those that you like, and apply it to the piece of wood that you're working on. So that's all that I have there on the slides. Before we get into the main meat of what we're going to be talking about today, does anyone have any questions?
I do think we have the 500 wood bowls over in the library.
Do we? Okay. Yeah, that's also a really good book. There's a lot of stuff that isn't what you would normally think of as a bowl, but if you're looking for some creativity or looking for some different ideas, it's a good one. Okay, so now the rest of this, we're going to be looking at this Autodesk Fusion 360. So yep, just making sure that you guys can see what I'm seeing up here. So what this is, it's a tool for making 3D whatever. Whether you're designing an actual machine, if you guys remember the Tipsy table that my buddy and I made, we ended up designing it on here for the laser cut parts and stuff. So you can do a lot of stuff with it. Right now, what I have, this is my simplistic crotch where we've got our one branch coming out into two branches. And then I've gone ahead and made a few different shapes here. And so before we kind of play around with those, I'm going to show you how you can make a shape on here. And the main thing, I'm not necessarily showing it so that you know how to do it, but more so showing so that you can kind of figure out how I'm conceptualizing what a bowl shape is, because I think that it will help in terms of, I've struggled in some of my past demonstrations trying to speak into existence what I visualize in my mind. This will be a good way of visualizing what a bowl, can look like in, 2D to 3D. So I'm going to make a sketch here, and I'm going to, and again, I am very basic at this, so as I look around and try and figure out what I'm doing, just bear with me, even though this is my demonstration. Okay, so I'm going to make a curve here. So I think this is a spline curve, but here could be the outside shape of a bowl, right? So there's the outside shape. I'm going to do another one for the inside shape of a bowl, and this is just kind of a simplistic shape. Maybe it's, okay, maybe it's not the best. We're not looking for perfect here because, again, there are better people than me to show what a good shape is. But I think that looks like a decent cross-section of one half of a bowl. And so I'm going to finish that. I'm going to take this. We're going to rotate it, revolve it, and around this axis. And so now we have a 3D shape there. I'll show you that 3D shape in a second. It's got a wood thing over it, but I'm going to try and keep it the same as all of the others, just so that you can see a little bit more of it. So this is the shape that I just drew, but now it's been revolved in 3D around that center axis. Does it kind of make sense what I did there? So I'll also try and show a little bit from, Here we go. Okay, so you can kind of rotate around and you can see that this is a bowl like we made, okay? And now you can also see, well, like I said, so there's the inside. You can see over to the right of it is the crotch that I made. And now we're upside down. Hopefully no one gets motion sickness throughout my demonstration. But yeah, so there's a bowl. Okay. Now that's going to be too big for what I need. So I'm going to make this smaller, modify it. I'm going to scale it, and I'm going to scale it down. It's finicky. So that looks like a decent size for now. Actually, I think I'd probably like to scale this down a little bit more yet. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what that shape would look like if you made that shape out of a crotch. So I need to make it a little smaller yet. And drag it back down again. And I could use the decimals, and I may end up doing that because that'll give us, yeah, I'm going to just use decimals because that's going to be, that seems like a decent size. So it's the same shape, just smaller. All right, now we're going to move that in this direction, hopefully. Again, like I said, I am not proficient at this. I can do basic things sometimes, but we'll get there eventually. So now it is over the top of that crotch, and it's not all the way centered, but it's close. So let's move it out this way just a little bit. Now it's centered, and that looks fine. So we've got that same bowl, we've got our crotch, right? They're overlapping, they're in the same spot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take those two pieces, I'm going to combine them, but I'm going to take the intersection where those two pieces intersect and see what that gives us. And so there we go. We've got the same shape, but we've got a cutout where the like Y of the crotch was not. Does everyone understand kind of what we did, what we're looking at there? Okay, so you can see that depending on where or how big that bowl is, you've got a different shape, and we'll make that really clear. But this is what we have right now. Obviously, there are some things that we could have done to make it better. I would say a big one is we're not centered. So if this was an actual bowl, now it's kind of funky and lopsided. But this kind of looks like the bowl that Dwight brought in, but a lot shorter, right? So let's play around. I'm going to undo some of the stuff. So let's play around with this, and let's, I want to modify it, and I want to, let's scale it up and make it bigger. I know we already previously made it smaller, but let's go back and make it bigger and see what that ends up doing for us. Let's go. Move that. And we're going to center it a little bit more, and let's raise it up. Okay. Let's just see what that gives us. Okay, so similar shape. On this, we've got natural edge over most of the spots, but let's make it bigger yet. We'll have the ability later to play around and like take some suggestions if there's any shapes that you guys like want to see or something. But right now we're just kind of showing the basic functionality and using kind of a simple bowl, I guess. And then let's take it up a little bit more. So one other thing, right now I have it so that the edge of the bowl that we're making, that if we had the complete piece, we would have the full bowl. Right now that edge is in the air, right? You can see that it's not actually within the crotch. So that is where you end up getting natural edge and some of what I think of as like the interesting stuff. Okay, turns out that is not a very useful bowl because of the, we were not, I think that if we look over the top, we don't have really much of anything in the bowl. So this is probably too big of a shape for it. But I think that this will end up working if we end up moving this up a little bit. So we're going to move it straight up to about here. And I think that we will end up being able to get a functional bowl out of this. And I think this shape might actually be kind of cool. Okay, so now, just because we decided to make our bowl slightly higher, and we've got the meat of our bottom at the very crotch where the two branches are coming out of, now we have a functional bowl, and now all we have is long, tall wings. And so this is more like what Dwight brought in, that really big piece, where it's just basically wings, and you've got a bottom. So those are all taking the same piece of wood and then just kind of deciding where do you want the bottom to be, what do you want that shape to be. You can visualize it in your head, but it's easier to visualize what this shape is going to be once you turn on the lathe and you see it spinning. Because you'll be able to see a cylindrical shape even though it's going to be mostly air and it'll kind of be scary to turn. You can make this shape out of it wherever you've got wood that is spinning along in a circle. Does that kind of make sense? So that was just kind of one example of this shape of a bowl that we just designed with the crotch. Does that make sense? Is there anything else? Well, yeah, I think that will be good with that. Let's try one more thing with this though. We may end up doing that with one of the other bowls, but let's make it a little smaller. So we're going to go back down and we'll do it like quarter size or so. Yeah, that's maybe a little too small. Okay, so we're going to move this back down to the center of our piece. Just because we're here, let's see what this looks like just because we're here. So looks similar to what we just had, but now we've got more enclosed around, rather than those wings just being all by themselves, they wrap around a little bit more. So this would feel a lot safer to turn because you've got more meat at the bottom holding it together. But we've got the same shape, and you can make the same shape of all of your pieces, just scaled up or scaled down. These spheres, this is the same shape, it's just in different sizes. And because of the different shapes of the original woods, we've got different looks of what those inclusions are. You know, this is the same concept as a crotch, but applied to a piece of wood that has a lot of different branches, a lot of crotches. Okay, now I want to try and rotate this. Sometimes this ends up taking a while. Let's see if I can rotate it. Sometimes because there's not many axes. Oh, here we go. See, it's wanting to rotate it because all of the axes are like circular. It's not doing much. So I need to play around for a second and get there. If I haven't said it before, I'm not an expert with this, but I can do some things. I think the problem is there we go. Okay, So now we've got the same shape, but we're changing the orientation a little bit. And we're gonna bring it down to here. And I actually want the orientation to be this. Okay. Okay. So same bowl, rotated in space. Let's see what it looks like. And let's rotate like this. And so now we've got a similar kind of bowl to some of the others that we saw. So now that we've got the kind of humps of this is where a branch is coming up and we've got a hump there. But we only have two main humps. If we end up rotating or like positioning it in the exact correct position, we could get it so that we've got three of them. So let's try and do that just a little bit more so that way we can kind of get the idea of what that would look like. I want to do bodies. And we're going to try and rotate it a little bit better so that it's okay. That should be a little bit better, a little bit more symmetrical, and let's see what that looks like. Not much better, but interesting. I don't know if that's good. I don't think that's necessarily a good shape, but we'll say it's interesting. Okay, I think that's good for that specific bowl. Because again, I like turning hollow vessels. We've all seen bowls. Most of us have probably tried this. For a show of hands, how many of you guys have done a bowl out of a crotch? Okay, how many of you guys have done this kind of orientation where you end up getting like the like bumps on top? Okay, how many of you guys have tried them with like Dwight's orientation where you've got like the tall wings and the first way that we are looking? So less. So that would be something interesting if you've got a piece at home, and usually that works better if you've got a full piece rather than a lot of times like that piece of wood up there has branches come out, but it's cut in half. You know, we like to save vlogs, so we cut them in half so that they don't split, but if you've got a whole piece, you can try it this way. Okay, so let's get rid of that bowl, and, well, maybe not.
Question,
Yes?
does that mean if you've got let's say you've got something like that full, so you would want to get into your software and look and see what you could do to know how to lay it out?
You could do that. Most of the time, I either have an idea of what it's going to do ahead of time, or I figure it out as I go. I know where the meat of the like wood is. I put it on the lathe in an orientation where I know where the top is. So like this piece here, we've got a pith there, we've got a pith here, and we've got a pith there. So this was a branch coming up here, coming out that way and that way. If we use our thing that we have here, let's go like that. And then I want to delete this piece. We'll just move it out of the way. Okay, so this piece here would have, sorry, no, you're good, would have been in that orientation. I knew that I wanted to have this kind of missing, and so I set it up so that between centers I had one center there in the meat of the wood, kind of right here, and then I also had my other center that was in the not perfectly centered, because perfectly centered would mean I would either be all the way in wood or I would have two hollow spots. So I had it a little off center. That way I would have only one of them off. I kind of just knew what it was going to be, and or I play with it and I figure it out as I go, or I just see what happens. But this is a good way of really actually visualizing it, and you could probably build, if you've got a piece like that one that's got 2 branches coming off of it, and you want to say, hey, I really want to emphasize these 2 pieces, or I want to figure out how to make it and show those, you could draw it in here, and you could take some different shapes and draw them in here and see exactly what you would get, and that would tell you where you need to put your centers at and like how big it needs to be. So you could definitely use it. I haven't really used this for that. I have found that this is a good way of showing it after I have done it and like showing what I kind of try and visualize on my own. But I kind of enjoy the mental challenge of just like, hey, what is this going to be? Or I'm going to put it on the lathe and we'll see what happens. So yeah, that's a good question. Are there other questions at this point? Okay.
Have you talked about the safety aspect of turning a crotch?
No, I don't do safety. I do design. Safety will be for a different demonstration. No, that's a really good point. So safety is important, and especially when you've got these pieces where you've got a lot of these aren't inclusions, but just spots where you don't have wood. You're turning air. If you're turning, say, a lot of people were impressed by Dwight's bowl that had the huge branches. That will be kind of scary. So safety is when you're turning air, being aware that even though you can see through it, and sometimes you forget about it, wood will be there eventually. So don't put your fingers in that path. And then also the wood is more likely to break apart at that point too. The more air you have, the less wood is holding it together. So one of the things that I like using is I find that also helps show you where to not put your fingers as well. So yeah, no, safety is definitely something to be aware of, and that's something that everyone has their own safety like threshold currently, and as you do more and you do more of these kinds of pieces, you will kind of push that as you go and get more and more comfortable. And then you'll have a catch and it'll back it up a little bit, and that's just kind of how that goes. So yeah, that's a good point. Other questions, comments at this point?
I know the one I was thinking of too, there was a turner a few years back that he was turning a big crotchwood log on his lathe, and he got to just the last little bit of wood that was holding it together. Yeah. And half that crotch went flying off and hit him right in the mask. Yeah. So his lathe started walking across the room trying to get away too.
Yeah, well, and I mentioned that before that sometimes where you have that crotch, you'll get some spalting because that's a weak spot in the tree. Spalting is going to weaken up those bonds in the fiber, in the wood, and then also just in general, kind of like when you're trying to turn a 1/32 inch piece of wood, if you've got not straight grain, it's going to be more likely to break apart. So when you've got the grain doing this, sometimes it's not as strong as if all of it's going in the same direction. So yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so let's take one of these other shapes. So let's just do it as is and see what this ends up looking like. So you can see the shape there. Now we've got most of the entire body is open. So this would be a pretty cool shape. I would like to do this because you've got almost a full connection at the top rim where your hole is that you would hollow out, and that was a big jump, that's not what I wanted. So you've got all connection at the top, and you can really easily see that this was, specifically tried to be hollowed, kind of like the small vessel that I had over there. I like either a full hole or none at all. But then the whole side of it is open. So I like that. That's a nifty shape. That's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and move it slightly and see what would happen if we were to shift centers. So right now, most of that is hanging out of the wood. In our original crotch, we're off center. Let's center it a little bit better. So we're going to move it this way just a smidge. Still not perfectly centered, but let's see how this ends up looking. So now we've got more is out of wood, less is air, and less is hollow, right? So similar shape, and we've got a smaller spot of air. So this would be safer to turn, and at the very top, we are much more completed and smooth. Can you see the differences there? Okay, now let's go ahead and see if we can try and make this exact piece that I had, or more similar to that. Let's try and rotate it so that way we're in the same orientation each time. Okay. Go back. What I need to do, because with this piece here, you can't see that I have a perfectly circular hole that I hollowed it out of. You can tell where I hollowed it from because it's symmetrically, rotationally symmetric around this axis, but you can't actually see the hole. That's because this shape was above the whole of that shape that I'm making is up in the air spot in this here. And then let's move it over, move it back just a little bit as well. So we're going to move it just a smidge. Let's try like 2, -10. Yeah, let's try that. This will be close enough for our purposes, I think. Okay. So now we have a similar shape to this. It's not perfect. I didn't make the original shape on here the same as this, but it's close enough that at the top, we've got natural edge all the way. You can't see this hole for hollowing. We've got this slit all the way down the side, which matches that. And on the back side, we've got a full, smooth, or mostly full, smooth place. And this is where we've got some of that chatoyance, some of that figure that we like seeing out of crotches. So this is a good way of trying to, what I originally intended with this piece of wood is I want to make it kind of hollow so you can see inside of it, and you can see the figuring there, and you can see it here. So trying to highlight that grain and make a cool shape out of it. So that's a different shape that we can apply to the same piece of wood. Do we want to do anything more with that piece of wood, or that shape, or we want to move on? Yeah. Once you get the general gist of this, then it's like, okay, I see what you're doing. I kind of understand it. So hopefully this isn't too much of like, all right, hey, move on. And again, it would be better. Bob, you said you've done fusion before. You want to come up here and make this quicker for us rather than me butchering through it?
No thanks, you're good.
Appreciate it. Alright, so we'll move this out of the way, and then we'll grab one of these other shapes. Do we need to do just a really simple bowl? This was the very first one that I made here to figure out how to do this demonstration. Do we need to see this, or did we get the gist of it with the other bowl that had curvier? Okay. Yeah, so let's go ahead and grab this, and we'll see what this shape is as well. So this is going to be more of just kind of your typical hollow vessel. Let's move, before we move it too close, let's actually like look at what it is. Rotate around here a little bit. So this is just a round oval hollow vessel. There's the small hole that we hollow through, and that's what it looks like. So pretty simple. Again, this isn't a demonstration to show what good forms are. This is a demonstration as to how you can use them. Let's see if we can aim this to get it inside of our crotch. And we're out that way a little bit. And so we'll move it once more. Okay, we're mostly in there, so this may be close enough that we just say, hey, let's see what happens. obviously not centered, but we're in a meat of wood, and so this would be a pretty cool shape to turn, I think. You end up having one side that is completely covered and like solid wood. You're gonna have really cool figure on the left side there. If I can figure out how to look at it. The whole top is, you know, smooth, contiguous. You've got a bottom, but you've got an opening on the entire side. I think for me, this would be a really fun piece to turn, and I would like to make this. So we can go back and we can see what is the orientation here. How do we get this out of it? And so this is going to be having your center. I should have brought in an actual just crotch to show, but the center of that would be in the would be about right here, and then rather than the other center being here, it would be kind of in one of the branches off to this. So that's how you would set it up on the lathe. Before you start going back to some of the safety stuff, you would probably want to use a chainsaw or something to knock off some of the wood so that you're a little bit more centered. Because otherwise you will either be turning at like 10 RPMs or your lathe will be walking away. So it's going to be off center, so use your chainsaw, remove some of the wood, or put some weight blocks on the side that's going to be air, so that way you're a little bit more centered, but that would be a cool way of doing that. Let's move this somewhere else and see what happens when we go there. Let's go there, let's bring it up a little bit, and well, let's just see what happens here. We're mostly out, like the bottom is in wood, the top is like the hole that we're hollowing through is completely in air. So that means we're gonna have natural edge at the top, and you're not going to see where we hollowed from. All of these pieces would be similar. With this, you don't know if I hollowed from here or if I hollowed from there, and you wouldn't be able to see your spot that you hollow in this piece. So let's see what it looks like. Again, I think this would be a neat shaped hollow. We've got a lot of air. We've got a little bit of, some wings coming up. This looks like it could be a bowl, but it closes back in on itself. And so maybe if I'm thinking of the final shape and the final form, I look at this and I say, well, because you've got one side that's like hanging over the other, it looks too close to being, or too close that you tried to make it like symmetrical, but you didn't and you screwed up, rather than you made it very obviously different. So if I were to do this, I might say, let's, instead of having it here, let's shift it over so that it's symmetrical, and that might be a better shape rather than having it one side is a little bit bigger. Let's rotate it that way a little bit. Let's move it down, and let's go here. Let's go negative like 15, just to make it a little better. We're splitting hairs, but let's see. So now I would say, now our top wings are symmetrical. We've got one side is a little bit bigger than the other, which, now does look intentional, kind of like this one, where obviously one side is higher up than the other, and so I think this would be a cool shape too, and you would also get some pretty good highlighting of that grain as well. Any other ways that we want to see what this shape looks like? We can rotate it out so that we've got the hole facing, as it is, we'll be facing out of the TV. We could rotate it sideways. We can make it bigger, smaller. Any suggestions?
Bring it down.
Bring it down, okay. How far do you want it? Do you want it all the way inside of it?
A little bit up, just right there.
Right there, okay. And so now we've got those almost all the way touching, and you still can't see the hole. technically you can see just a smidge of like the cutout of where that hole is. So if it were me, I would then, if I made this shape and it's almost done, and I can see that little bit of like the notch of the hole, I would make this thinner. If you made your walls thinner, can you see that that would then remove where you see the hole? So that would be a kind of another design choice that you could make as you're going. But if you make it thinner, now this corner here is going to stretch back and you'll have more exposed there. But that's also cool, that's fun, and you just see what happens. At this point, when you've started the hollowing, your shape is pretty well set because you're grabbing it by a tenon and your center line is now set. Before that, before you start hollowing, I often go between centers because you can change the arrangement however much you want. You can decide, I like this, or I want to make it a little bit more here, I want to, emphasize. So I like going between centers because you can make all of those choices. Yes, if you use a faceplate or something, it's maybe safer, but a faceplate on a crotch is sometimes going to be tough. There's other ways that you can hold it. I like centers, and I just like being careful with it. Make sure that you tighten it up as you go, especially if it's lopsided because it'll kind of wiggle out on you. But once you end up making your tenon on one side, that's where your center is going to be. That's where you're going to hollow from. But yeah, so that's a cool shape there. Let's try one more thing with this same height. Let's push it back a little bit. So we need to go from the side. And the reason why it was so exposed, and you can see into it, is because we're off-centered from the center line of the crotch. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that. We're going to push it back towards the center. We'll leave it off-center a little bit because maybe that'll be visually interesting. We'll see. And if you guys play with this on your own, you've got all of the options that you could do in the world. So now we've got a different piece of wood. This is almost a completely different looking shape because now we've got both sides are through and we've got our hole at the top, but same original shape. It's just where do we place our centers to begin with. Other ideas? Do we want to see other shapes? Do we want to, the rest of this was just, we're going to play with it, we're going to see what happens. So if there's other things that you want to see with this, or if you want to see a different design or anything, happy to show more. But for the most part, that's kind of what I was wanting to show. Those are the main kind of few forms that I wanted to highlight. Spheres, you could do a sphere, and those are examples. You can see other examples without the hollowing. And so you can put the sphere in any spot. Without the legs, this is also a sphere, but this, rather than going right in the meat of the wood, I put it off to the side. So if we were using our same crotch here, and if we imagined that this bowl that or the hollow vessel here, let's move it. If this were a sphere, I did it, we're getting there, kind of like that. And so let's see what this looks like and see if it looks anywhere close to kind of the sphere. Yeah, a little bit. Not perfect, but again, we've got the same, you can see the two humps there of the branches and the one hump of the log that it was coming out of. But we only used half of the log. And this would be similar to like a bowl that a lot of people would make out of a crotch. You cut it in half and you either go with the natural edge going up, and so you've got some humps, or you could go the natural edge going down and you wouldn't see it and it'd be a full bowl. Kind of like the other example that you brought in, Dwight, that you did back in 2000. So That's kind of what I have. Are there other questions, thoughts, comments for this?
So just review, this is a software that is available free?
Yes, it is Autodesk Fusion 360. It's the same makers, same company that makes AutoCAD, if you've ever used that. And yes, this is a free program, so Google it, put in your stuff, and you can use it. Right up here it says not for commercial use. So if you're a company that's going to be selling stuff and using it to design machinery, you have to pay for it. But this one is free. The other one out there is Onshape, ONSHAPE. That one's also one that is very similar. Some people have preferences. This is just one that I have used and I have played with it. So yes.
So how long does it take to really learn to manipulate?
To do this stuff, not at all. It takes a half hour of playing. I did quite a bit of learning as I was doing it here of the quickest, best ways. I played with it and made some of the things, but in terms of the moving it and rotating it, it was always like frustrating. And the few times that I'm like, hey, let me make sure I know how to do this, and it's like I forget, and now I remember. And so far I've used like 3 different things. You go here and you draw a sketch, and you make the shape that you want to make. And so we're going to make a circle. And then what I did after that, I finished that sketch. So I've got a sketch of the thing. I'm going to take that. The next thing that I did is I revolved it. I revolved it around an axis, which, let's just say that's the axis. Again, not the best. So maybe that was a bad way of saying like, oh, it's really easy, and then I do a thing that I don't know how to do. You play around with it for a few minutes, you end up figuring out how it works again. So for this,
the fusion part is where you take one shape and then overlay another shape on top.
Yep, and that is just a button. So that is just this button that is combined. And so I've got my 2 shapes there. All I'm doing is I'm clicking this combine button. And there are different ways that you can combine them. So right now I'm combining and showing just the intersection. You could show the joint between them so that it puts both of them together, or you could do them so that it cuts out one of them, and so you have what's not there. But this intersect is what I was using to just like show everything that I've been doing. So that's just a button. And so for this stuff here, it's pretty simple. And if any of you guys want to try this and you're struggling, shoot me an email and I'll walk you through it, or give me a call and we can walk through it, and I'll help you with the things that I know. Again, with the preface that I'm not an expert, but I've done a few things, and YouTube is really good. Google, anytime that you're working with a computer program, if you have a problem with it, someone else has, and likely thousands of others have already had that same problem, and so there's already Google answers that exist, YouTube answers that exist. Yep. Anything else? Well, that's what we got. So hopefully that helps you guys visualize a little bit of, some of the stuff in the past that I've talked about hollowing. And, for today we are looking at everything in the specific context of looking at a crotch. And so if you've got some funky pieces of wood, do whatever shape that you want. It doesn't have to just be a bowl. I know that everyone, round and brown, that's what we like making, but you don't have to. Make different stuff, play around with it, be a little scared and intimidated by it, but it's fun. You do some cool things. So that's what we got. So thanks a lot, guys.